Hello and welcome to Sports Opinion, the weekly sports talk show on Channel 18, which is public access TV. My name is Dirk Keller. This is Bob Boyd. Over on the far side there, that's Pat White.
Hi, Dirk.
Yes,
Earl Murphy's here, as always. Joe Murphy's here behind the microphone, behind the camera, I should say. And we've got a very special guest here today, Tom Kakert from HawkeyeReport.com, which is a Rivals.com subsidiary.
I guess. I don't know.
Yeah,
That's where
Yeah.
the checks.
that's where the checks come
Well,
from.
the checks come from Yahoo, actually. But,
Do they?
yeah.
Well, I want everybody to know there are a lot of websites out there you can choose to view and participate in, but without a doubt, Hawkeye Report and Rivals.com, but even more directly, Tom Kakert is well respected, well known as really an authority and straight shooters when it comes to recruiting. We wanted Tom to be here today and talk about some of the high school seniors, if not all the high school seniors that the
How do I
Hawkeyes
send the
signed.
check, by the way?
Hey, just being here. You know, guys, I don't know if everybody here realizes this, but Tom drives from the Quad Cities to be here with us on the show. He doesn't have to do that.
Suburb of the Quad Cities.
Yeah,
Bluegrass.
Bluegrass
is a suburb of the Quad
Suburb, yeah.
So we appreciate you being here. Before we get started on Hawkeye recruiting, we wanted to just take a minute to talk about a friend of ours who passed away on Sunday. His name was Baron Bremner. Some of you viewing at home may recognize the name. Baron was a former Hawkeye football player on the 1957 Rose Bowl championship team. He was also the Hawkeye heavyweight wrestler during that era, and a friend to all of us. Earl, I can't thank you enough for introducing me to Baron so many years ago. I had the honor of joining the Elks Club with Baron in the same class, and he and I went through the rituals of initiation together one night, and he just made it so much fun for me. And I also was able to interview Baron when we interviewed the whole 1957 team that came back for their 50th anniversary a few years ago. And we've also had Baron on our show, and I'd love to know if we can dig that show up because he was just a wealth of information. And I don't know if any of us truly realized how many people he influenced over the years. He was the longtime co-college athletic director, not once but twice. He was also the longtime Cornell College athletic director, not once but twice. He made a difference for a lot of people. Cornell College on their website have a really nice tribute to him and talked a little bit more about what he meant to the school and to the individuals, not just athletes. We learned from our from his appearance here on Sports Opinion a few years ago that at one time he was the tennis coach there, and I think swimming as well at one time. He was a master of all kinds of things, and maybe none more so than telling a good joke.
That's right.
He had quite a personality. He really did. He was fun.
He was so funny.
Yeah.
And it didn't matter where you ran into him. He remembered your name. He stopped and talked to you. If he had family with him, he would introduce you to his family.
He's quite proud of them,
And
too.
very, very. And just so saddened to learn that he had passed away on Sunday. And there are a lot of tributes to Baron Bremner on the internet, on a lot of different websites. One of the stories I read that I never knew about him was that, number one, he was from Knob Lick, Missouri. But not only was he from Knob Lick, Missouri, but the story goes that he still holds the record as being the heaviest baby born in the state of Missouri.
Seriously.
Now, I'm told that it was 18 pounds at birth.
Oh, my
I
God.
don't
Oh, my
believe
God.
that.
We got to follow up on that.
Yeah,
one.
if anyone could do it, though, it would have been Baron, for sure.
In those days, a lot of people were born at home,
Uh-huh.
and they went past term.
Yeah,
And he might have been one of those candidates with.
Wow.
his poor mother.
Oh, my
That's all
God.
I can say.
Might have been her last child.
One of the things Barron loved to talk about is, his first
fame, if you will, in Iowa athletics was as captain of the Mau Maus
That's
on the
right.
1956 Rose Bowl team.
He took great pride in
Mau
that.
Maus being a group of people who didn't play in the regular game but scrimmaged against the first string, and he attributes that term to a movie that he and several of his teammates saw in downtown Iowa City, which included people called Mau Maus who were, as I recall, Hawaiian warriors, were they not?
Yeah. Yeah.
He was very, very proud of
Oh.
that, and he claimed, I think with some justification, that the Mau Maus were a big part of that team's success.
I can tell you, I interviewed that 57 team, and every single one of them talked about how much tougher practice was against the Mau Maus than the actual games on Saturday.
I thought it was African.
Don't know.
I can't remember.
I think it was
But he
African.
saw it in the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know that.
I remember him talking about it quite a lot when he was here on Sports Opinion, that visit you alluded to earlier.
Yeah.
That would be a good one to review.
Yeah, Joe, I don't know if you can dig that up, if we still have it. But one of the stories he told me was about a trip that the wrestling team took to Stillwater, Oklahoma. And after the meet, the team went to a local restaurant to have dinner before they headed home. And one of the members of the wrestling team was black. His name was Cy Roberts.
Made his
And
home in the Quad Cities after.
He was from
Yeah.
Davenport. Davenport.
Yeah.
well, apparently the chef sent word to the team that they could be served, but not their black teammate. So, as Barron told it, the team got up to leave. They weren't going to put up with that. Barron took it upon himself to go back into the kitchen and to talk to the chef. And he told us this story here on the show. And I can't remember how he put it, but he said he told the chef that if he didn't serve all of the teammates, that he would be swallowing a few teeth and his kitchen would be wrecked and unable to serve anyone else afterwards. And lo and behold, everybody on the team got served. There were no problems, and life went on.
Well, good for him.
Yeah.
You know?
Barron was as good as they come in many ways, and I'm going to miss him a lot. And I speak for all of us when I say that.
Good man.
He was somebody real special, and I'm just honored to have met him. And Earl, thank you for that.
He was also the president of Delta DU's.
Upsilon,
Yeah, he was the president of that for a while. So
he did so many things for so many people. And if you go to some of these websites that have to him, the number of former students that went out of their way to say something about him and how he influenced them personally.
Well, how
Pretty
could you
amazing.
not like him, really? And he had great leadership qualities as well. So,
You know, I thought Mike Halas from the Cedar Rapids Gazette
yeah.
put it best. The headline for his story was what was it? I forget. One college not big enough for Barron Bremner.
yeah,
You know, it was two colleges, and not only two colleges, but two arch rivals, big foes, don't get along to this day. It's the Hatfields and McCoys, Cole and Cornell, and only Barron, I think, could bring those two together and traverse that chasm between the two schools that are so close geographically but so far apart when it comes to getting along.
And as you said earlier, each one of them twice. I mean, you know, that's a compliment right there to hire anybody back after they leave, you know.
And there was no animosity.
Yeah.
and they're going to have a testimonial at their the 3rd of.
3rd of March,
Yes.
2 o'clock on Saturday. And I already know I'm not going to be able to make that. I got to.
Is that a Cornell?
Well,
Yeah.
that's also right during the last Iowa basketball game.
That's
Iowa
right.
Northwestern
At
game.
home and
Yeah.
Gaten's last game.
That's right.
I got to miss both of them. I got to coach my 10-year-old's basketball game, his last basketball game that day.
I'm not sure
Figures.
they've set the time yet. for
Yeah,
the
it's 2
basketball.
o'clock.
2 o'clock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So I don't know, but anyway, we wanted to mention Barron because he meant a lot to us, and
We'll miss him.
yeah, we really will. Good guy. Tom's here to talk about Hawkeye recruiting.
Yeah.
It's only been a couple weeks ago today, 2 weeks ago today, when Kirk Ferentz got 23, 24, I don't know.
24.
24 young men, high school seniors, to sign on the dotted line.
Not all seniors.
Two junior colleges.
Junior
Oh, that's
college
right.
kids.
I stand corrected. That's right. So we thought we'd ask Tom to tell us a little bit about these individuals, and I don't know if we talk about them first or who's going to be coaching them first.
Aha.
It's an interesting class how it came together because I think everybody, it was funny because, I don't know, probably about 2-3 weeks before signing day, the panic buttons among fans were starting to be hit. Oh, you're missing on this guy, missing on that guy. And then all of a sudden they kind of finished with a little bit of a rush and got some kids late that I think are pretty exciting. So good class, filled a lot of needs, which was the
Good.
biggest thing, and provides them with more depth. I think they're still trying to fill some holes from kind of that 08, 09 group that, they've had a lot of attrition in those two classes, and I think the depth is the big thing that they've got to continue to develop. Are a lot of these guys going to come in and play a position next year? Probably not. I think maybe Connor Kornbrath, the punter, will have an excellent opportunity to come in as a true freshman and win that job. But a lot of the other guys, they're going to be special teams guys, I think, as true freshmen. Like Reese Fleming, Sean Draper, Anthony Morgan, or Gare, I guess is now how he's known now.
Why is that?
It's his mother's name.
Okay.
So I think he'll have a chance. Ruben Lai might have a chance to come in, play some special teams. Maybe the guys that have the best opportunity, Jalil Johnson, a defensive tackle out of Chicago. He's got the one of the requirements of a good defensive tackle, and that's he's got size. And a big behind.
Yeah.
It's a foundation for linemen.
He's a wide load back there, so I think he's got a
He's an
chance.
All-American, right, to begin with.
Yeah,
Yes.
he's got the
All-American rear.
yeah.
That said, the defensive line is a tough place for freshmen to play.
It is. It's
Yeah.
as Kirk always says. The closer you are to the ball, the harder it is to play as a true freshman. So that's why you see a Greg Garman, I think, will come in and play right away.
Tailback.
Just because they need a running back. I think he'll have a chance. I wouldn't sleep on Barkley Hill though, because he's run essentially the same system at Cedar Falls that Iowa runs, a lot of the zone scheme stuff, and he's a one-cut guy that seemed to have a lot of success in the Iowa system. So I'd say,
Have you seen Barkley Hill play in person?
yeah, he's pretty good.
He can also catch the ball.
Yeah,
You have not seen Greg Garman, I take it.
I've seen him in a practice situation down in Phoenix before the Insight Bowl, so I did see him in person. He's pretty tall. He's about 6'1.5", 6'2", and he's pretty thin too. And I think he'll have to add some weight, but he is certainly dynamic athletically. I think he's real dynamic athletically.
What's his weight, Tom?
About 190, 195. So I think that's a good get for them. Quarterback, they filled a need there with Derby moving, and then also leaving the program. Obviously, you have to look at it projecting things. And James Vandenberg and John Wenke are going to be seniors. The following year, your only quarterback would be Jake Rudock. And so they needed to get more bodies in there. They got a JUCO kid in Cody Sokol, who's going to have a chance, probably redshirt this year, I would imagine.
He's the JC guy?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's from Scottsdale Junior College, but he's got family ties back to the state of Iowa, so that was part of his interest.
And he's 6'3",
Yeah,
210 pounds.
yeah, and then they got a little late gift, C.J. Beathard out of Tennessee, who was committed to Ole Miss for a long time, and Ole Miss was going to run. He committed to Houston Nutt when Houston was still there, and they'd run more of a pro-style attack. And then they brought in Hugh Freeze, the Arkansas State coach, to coach Ole Miss, and he's going to run that spread option attack. And this kid is not a spread option kid. He doesn't fit with it. So got some cold feet and started looking around. His high school coach happened to be a guy who played at Vanderbilt when Norm was there.
Really?
Yeah. So kind of a small world kind of thing. So they and Eric Johnson was there as well. So they contacted Eric and and sent up a tape, and they said, "Hey, let's see how this goes." And
Now his-
Coach O'Keefe went down there and sold him, and then
Coach O'Keefe left.
and then drove down to Miami.
So, have you talked to any of these kids who were recruited by Coach O'Keefe since he left?
I haven't, but one of our writers, Blair Sanderson, has, and I think everybody's fine with it because they know the attack is not going to change a whole lot. I mean, they're not going to go. They're not going to hire an offensive coordinator who's going to run the spread option, zone read kind of stuff. They're just, it's not going to happen. So,
Are there any rumors on that front?
well, we're kicking around the name Tom Moore today, but I don't know how viable that is.
Who's
and
Tom Moore?
Earl?
Well, I don't know. He didn't play much when it was at Iowa.
He
He was a reserve quarterback back in the 50s.
I think he was third team quarterback.
But he sure made a name for himself with the Colts as their
He was the offensive
Offensive guru.
coordinator and
For
quarterback coach
For
the-
Dungy and
for Tony Dungy.
just Dungy?
Tony Dungy,
worked
Coach
with
Peyton
Peyton
Manning.
Manning, yeah.
Also, to kind of focus in on kind of the fairness thing, he was also the offensive coordinator, quarterback coach for the Steelers from '83 on under Chuck Noll. Mm-hmm. So.
Where is he
But
now?
then I was just thinking, I'm hearing this. I wasn't really familiar with Baron Bremner, but because this whole thing started because somebody saw him in town, and maybe he was back for.
Well, he and the coaches are certainly Kirk. They're friends.
Yeah,
It's not that unusual.
when you
that
stop by
somebody
for a
would stop
courtesy
by.
visit if
I mean,
you're
he's
in
pretty
town.
old to be
Yeah.
That's just what I
going
was going
back
to say.
to be any coach at a college.
He's currently a
74, I think.
Yeah, he's 74.
Oh, he
He's-
is?
Yeah,
I
he's
didn't realize
currently a consultant for the offensive consultant for the New York Jets.
Where's he living?
He is the story I saw today said he's in somewhere in South Carolina, Myrtle Beach or something like that, living in that area.
Uh-huh.
So we'll see.
Especially recruiting is a
Yeah.
much
Well,
younger man's
Norm
game.
did not-
Well, I realize that, and I'm not one who thinks that's a good idea. I think you need your coordinators out
Yeah, and
there.
Kirk
I
has
agree.
said he
Agreed,
doesn't
yeah.
think he would rather his coordinators not recruit.
Yeah, he did, but he's also said that he'd rather not play West Coast teams, and Big Ten signed a tie-in as far as the eye can see.
I don't. When the battle between Kirk Ferentz and Jim Delaney, I think Jim's going to win.
Jim
Yeah, I
has
think
more
so.
votes.
Yeah.
Well,
But he'll make that work.
I'm sure.
But you need bodies on the recruiting trail as much as you get, because there are limits as to how many can be out at a time, and you probably need younger people to relate to 16, 17, 18-year-old high school athletes.
We're not
How many
gonna-
jobs are available on the offensive line?
Well, you got the offensive coordinator, you've got offensive line coach. Technically, you have the quarterback coach
Right.
as an availability right now too.
three
'Cause Ken,
people.
but 3 people.
Well, 3 positions.
3 people. You can hire 3 more people.
Right. What?
There's a limit on the number of
I know.
coaches.
Number of
but, I
coaches.
mean, you can give them slots any way you want.
Yeah.
Essentially, what I read is we'll know a lot whenever we find out who the offensive line coach is, or if there's an offensive line coach and a quarterbacks coach. We're going to learn a little bit more. Kirk will have to tip his hand.
It'll also be interesting to see if they wait on the other 2 offensive slots until the coordinator is hired, so the coordinator can
Right.
participate in that decision.
Right.
Yeah, they have the linebacker coach, and I think everybody assumes it's going to be LeVar Woods. And I'd be surprised, and frankly, I'd be disappointed
Yeah.
if it wasn't LeVar Woods.
Yeah, I
At
think
this
you're
Well,
point.
it's got to be. He's, well,
And well, I think the advantage there too, you get a young, energetic, NFL experienced native. He grew up in Northwest Iowa.
Yes.
out there on the road recruiting.
He's a sweetheart of a guy.
Yep.
And he's a great guy. And
Yeah.
and let's face it, Reese Morgan has done a tremendous job in recruiting the state of Iowa, but Reese is 62. You don't know how much longer he's going to coach. I'm not trying to force Reese out. I hope
No.
Reese stays a long time. He's one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. But you can start grooming, and LeVar's had already started building those relationships with a lot of the coaches in the state. He does a football academy the last couple of years, and they're doing 7-on-7 camps with a lot of the high school teams, and so I think he's building those relationships that I think you need as a college coach to recruit in the state of Iowa effectively.
Is it his name Tom Bradley?
He was the defensive guy.
Yeah, he was on. I hear he was in town.
Yeah, I think Kirk probably would have given him serious consideration
I've
if
heard
not
that.
for the Sandusky thing.
That's right.
True. We
That's
need
a
to
nice way
stay
to
away
put it.
from that whole Penn State
I think there were
association.
probably some blowback from upstairs.
Yeah.
And I understand why university might want to avoid
That's right.
making
Yeah.
that story, but having said that, why do you punish a guy who,
That's
by all accounts, did absolutely nothing wrong?
no.
And is one of the most respected
Yeah, highly regarded
defensive
guy.
coaches in the country. Former players who would battle to the death for him.
Yeah.
They wanted him to
That's
be the
no
new head
disrespect
coach.
to Phil Parker, because Phil
No.
Parker is, I think, a great hire. I think what people will see differently, I know people are saying, well, Kirk basically shot down any idea of doing things differently. I think they'll be slightly more aggressive. I think you'll see less of the linebackers in the slot,
Good.
which I think drives
Good.
people bananas. But I think those will be some subtle things. They're not going to do anything drastic. You're not going to see them flying around with blitzes on every down or anything like that, but maybe a little more blitzing, more defensive backs on guys in the slot. That's kind of my feeling.
But offensive coordinator. Now we've heard some names like Jay Norvell, former
Jay
Hawkeye,
Norvell, his name has bounced around a little bit.
current co-offensive coordinator at Oklahoma under Bobby Stoops.
Sue
Possible.
Campbell.
Soup Campbell,
Yep.
Lester Erb.
Yep. Those are the names.
Any other names?
No. Dirk Keller.
Dirk Keller. Yeah.
I was going
He'd
to.
take the job.
Yeah.
My
I was-
vast experience playing football.
You know,
I don't
you know,
even
on
How
our,
about 0
on
and
our,
12?
on our
I
message
Played
think
2
he's
months, I
getting
think.
more for Illinois than he is for Iowa.
What?
Well,
Now, Earl Murphy,
he's a big
you've
Illinois
said a
fan.
lot of things to me over the years.
Them's fighting
That is the
words.
most insulting ever. Good Lord.
I am privately campaigning that they just let the fans pick plays.
Oh, there you go.
There are a lot of offensive coordinators in the stands apparently.
Yeah.
So they
Wasn't
just
it always that way?
I always ask Kirk. I said, Kirk, can I call the first play? He said, no.
just tell them you want to run stretch play to the left, and I think you'll call the first play.
That's part of being a fan in any sport.
That's
Yeah.
right. Armchair quarterback.
Second guess.
But
Hindsight is
are.
always really, really good.
don't you think that Norm Parker got a bit of a break in that respect? I never read much criticism of him compared to Ken O'Keefe. If the Hawks win, great. O'Keefe didn't get in the way, and Parker's defense was great. If the Hawks lose, it was because of Ken O'Keefe, and the defense is on the field too much.
What Norm always used to say, I mean, whenever he would speak in public and fans would have an opportunity to question him, that was almost always the first question. Norm, why don't you blitz more? And his answer was always the same, and he handled it fairly well, which was, well, when you blitz, unless you got great athletes playing cornerback and safety, you're going to get burned most of the time. And he said, we've gotten burned. We blitzed, and I regretted it as soon as I did. And unless you've got NFL caliber defensive backs, you got to be careful about blitzing.
And I thought they blitzed a lot.
They blitzed a lot more
That's
This
the word,
year.
the
a lot
last 2
more.
years.
Yeah,
Now,
that's
and-
true. Yeah.
You know, that's an interesting observation because Norm has been less omnipresent / active the the last 2 years.
And Phil
And
spent-
Phil Parker had a role in much more of a role in defensive game planning and calling defensive signals.
And I think that, you know, if you look at it, it's a Ferentz philosophy is where this all comes down from. It, and Kirk talked about this last Wednesday when he announced, you know, officially kind of sat down with us and talked about Phil being hired. And he said, you know, we're not going to do 3-4. We're not going to do 46. We're not going to blitz like crazy. And he said, I'm open to a lot of different things. The only thing I don't want to see is us give up big plays.
Right.
Giving up
Which we
easy-
did quite a bit anyway.
Yeah,
did we?
You
Yeah.
just can't give up big. He just big scoring plays. He just wants to avoid big scoring plays. And on offense, you know, he's in that mentality that, I mean, it's got to be balanced. It's got to be 50-50. And he'll always quote the thing, and I forget who said it, probably Woody Hayes or somebody like that, you know, why don't you throw the ball more? Because 2 out of the 3
Oh,
things.
no, that's Woody Hayes.
That's Woody Hayes.
Yeah, that's Woody Hayes.
But one of the interesting things about, I'm sure it's not just Iowa fans who have been carping for 10 years about why don't we open up the offense. The last 2 years especially, we did.
Yeah.
There were a lot
We
of
won more 3 and 4 wide receiver sets
don't see
than I've
that.
ever seen.
I know. The thing that people say, though, the offense is stale, the offense is this. They've done more variations
Absolutely.
on formations and schematically and routes
Yeah.
the last 2 years than any of the previous 10 or 11 years. And you know, they always cite, fans will cite that, you know, O'Keefe's average is like 6th or 7th in the Big Ten total offense. But they've averaged over his tenure, I think it was about 22, 24 points a game.
Which is
When Iowa-
third in the Big Ten over that time period,
Yeah.
if I remember right.
Yeah, and points are, yards they don't keep score of yards, they keep score of points. The thing that's been the biggest decider between Iowa being a 10, 11 win team and Iowa being a 6, 7, 8 win team is when that defense is good, they're up at 10. When they get 30 turnovers in a year, defense is up highly ranked. That's when
Right.
they get 10, 11 wins. You just look at the statistics and, you know, yeah, could the offense be better? Could it put up more points? That's the whole chicks dig the long ball kind of mentality that, you know, we want to see more points, more runs. The thing that fans want more than anything else, wins.
Well, and we
I don't
also,
think they'd be happy if they were losing 45-43. They would be just as mad as if they were losing 10-6.
It also is the case, I think, that the use of more spreads, more wide receivers coincided with Eric Campbell's arrival.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think he's
Including his involvement in recruiting and trying to find people like Cavante Martin-Manley from Michigan, which was his home territory.
well, and our special teams have not been very good the last
Yeah.
couple of years, and that would include our place kicking. You know, we don't have an Nate Kading, for example. He won us some ball games back in the
you know, if-
early part of the century here.
If you wanted to
Decade.
take what I was talking about a step further, Iowa's best years have been when they, with the exception, I think, of 02. I think 02 is the anomaly kind of year. But when they've been really good, they've had a really, really good defensive line that could get after it and stuff the run
Get some pressure
and
on
get
the
pressure on quarterbacks and get sacks. When they had Matt Roth and Babineau and D-Rob and Claiborne and Klug and Ballard and that whole troop. I mean, that's when those guys were. That's when they had their best teams. Is when, and that's if you're looking at next year.
Yeah, who's going to
that's-
step in, Tom?
That's the biggest question because that is, and I think that's Kirk talked about this, but so I'm not revealing a trade secret here, but that's probably part of the reason why LeVar Woods is not the defensive line coach and Reese Morgan is, because Reese has been around the block. I mean, if there's I was talking to Julian Vandevelde about this the other day, and he goes, look, if there's somebody who knows what a offensive lineman is going to try and do, It's Reese Morgan.
That's right.
That's right.
Well,
Makes
and
sense, yeah.
I told these guys a week or so ago, it's gonna be interesting to me to see if anybody who's been playing offensive line or has been recruited ostensibly as an offensive lineman ends up in spring practice on the defensive
There's
side of the
Yeah.
one guy that jumped over there for the bowl prep, and that was Casey McMillan,
Oh, really?
who hasn't played
who hasn't played a whole lot.
offensive lineman.
Is he the
He'd
big
be a
guy
senior
from
this year.
Canada?
Yeah, Montana.
Montana.
He's a
Same thing.
tackle.
What year will he
Number
be?
66.
I think he's
He'll be a senior.
senior
He'll
this
be a
year.
He's going to be a senior?
Yeah,
Wow, already.
yeah.
And he redshirted, so he'll be a
A
fifth-year
fifth-year senior, but he would certainly fit into the because
He-
tackle
He's
is
been playing on the extra point field goal team.
Mm-hmm.
He's been in the blocking line.
he's a kid maybe that could filter in there. I think they need at end they're just you look at it from this perspective in the Insight Bowl, the 4 guys that started that game are gone.
Yeah.
4 guys that started that game are gone. Couple that with 3 guys that went to the NFL. I mean, that's 7 guys over 2 years, and the rest of the guys have either not played a lot or have not distinguished themselves at this point, other than maybe a Steve Bigak. Alvis has had
Alvis
his
was
moments.
he won't be ready to
Yeah.
play spring ball.
Yeah, but
Oh, he's not?
No, he had the ACL. He'll be ready in the fall.
When
Yeah.
did that happen? In the bowl game?
That
No,
that was
before that.
season.
And he was really coming along.
Yeah.
But do you know anything about Carl Davis? Is it beginning to look like he's got a chronic knee problem? or
He's
is
got
it
some
just-
knee problems, and I think he's got to learn how to play the position too. Iowa just has not ever found those 6'5", 300-pound natural 300-pound guys in the Ferentz tenure that have worked out real well either. I mean,
On the defensive side.
on the defensive line, they just haven't found those guys. They've always had the buildable guys pretty much all the time at tackle. When you look at King and Kroll and Klug, I mean, maybe 3 of their better tackles, or even Babineau, who came in at like 220, 230. Their best D tackles have been kind of buildable.
How do we
Yeah.
rank in recruiting?
Probably about 35, 40.
In the Big Ten?
ESPN had them at 3. We have them at 6.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're in the middle of the pack.
Now,
Yeah.
there's a gentleman coming in at defensive end named Faith Ikakiti.
Ikiti. Yeah.
The second K is silent.
He's probably going to end up playing defensive tackle.
Really?
He's probably going to end up redshirting, I would guess.
He's a 4-star recruit, 6 feet 2 inches, 255 pounds.
He's got Binns-like qualities to him. Abnormally long arms, but he's probably about 270 now. And I think he's going to just grow his way into being a D tackle. So you may see them in the. The other kid that I'm curious about that I think could be the next Matt Kroll is Nate Meyer, the 8-man football kid from Fremont Mills.
Have you seen him play?
Just on video.
Yeah. 6
and
feet 2, 235 pounds.
His videos in those 8-man games it's like you're in the backyard and you're the dad and you got the kids draped on the back of you and you keep running. It's one of those. He played running back, and he's 235. He just overpowered people at that level, and you kind of look at his frame and his build, and it's Matt Kroll.
I had him projected as our fullback after Brad Rogers.
He could be. They're going to give him a shot at running back. But the way it was kind of termed when Kirk talked about it was, we'll give him a look-see. So
One of the things to remember when you're looking at recruits is Christian Ballard, who actually played as a true freshman, was recruited as a tight end.
He lasted about
So
2 days.
once they come to camp, it's not impossible that somebody
No.
gets moved. Everybody agrees defensive line is our biggest need. We've got
And you-
some offensive linemen, we've got some holes, but he's got some people with a lot of ability who haven't played much yet.
Tell us about Drew Ott. He's a defensive end,
Yeah.
6 feet 4, 235 pounds.
put up some ridiculous numbers this year.
And where's he from?
He's from Giltner, I think Giltner, Nebraska. Small place. It was funny because I always think Mike Cassell, the kid who's coming in for basketball,
Yeah.
plays for a kind of a small school in Nebraska. And I was talking to Drew. I said, "Do you ever play Mike?" And he goes, "No, they're a big school. We're a small school." And I'm like, yeah, but he's a parade All-American.
That's right.
Big kid, gonna take a couple years to probably fill out.
How come he's just a 3-star if he's a parade All-American?
Because he's from Nebraska,
Small school.
and Nebraska didn't offer him. So
That's it.
There was a position issue there, was there not?
yeah, he played tight end. So he's not as experienced. He projects to the end. Played tight end and it had, ridiculous. He had some games where he had like 6 touchdown passes.
Well, here's another defensive end, Demontis Venkus.
Demontis Venkus, and he's another guy that's got he hyphenated his name, and I can't remember how to say it, but I cringe. I saw Gary Dolphin at the signing day press conference, and I said, "How are you going to handle that one?" And he goes, "DVC."
Okay. Demontis Venkus.
Yeah, he's another kid that's going to have to grow into his body. He's 6'4", 220, late bloomer kind of kid. The year before then, he was like 190-pound linebacker. So
Really?
yeah, so he's going to have to fill out.
And where's he from?
He's from Florida.
Okay.
Has Alex Cozen made a decision yet?
No. That
Where
story.
do you think that's leaning, Tom?
That story is so strange because he did commit to Iowa on like a Sunday night.
Did he make a commitment to our staff, or was he just
He committed to
talking?
talk to Reese Morgan and told him that he was coming to Iowa. And so they were excited about it, and Eric Johnson put out his tweet about it, and then recruiting never stops up to signing day. And Auburn was back in there, and they were. Alex goes to a private school, very religious school, and apparently the high school, the campus, and the athletic facilities would make most colleges around here envious. Smaller colleges completely envious. They got some money around there, and they've built a palace, and they've got a powerhouse there with getting kids. But he's a very deeply religious kid. Parents are deeply religious as well. And Auburn came in with their last kind of Hail Mary, so to speak, of the fact that they have a chaplain on staff in their football office who's in their football office.
Paid position?
Yes.
Wow.
You wonder how they do that legally, don't you?
Yeah.
At a state-run institution.
Well, I suppose
Yeah.
non-coaches, you can,
Is Auburn state? I thought Auburn was private.
No, Auburn is
no, it's a state
it's a state school.
They're not too concerned about rules anyway.
It is the SEC.
So they brought that up that Iowa did not have a chaplain, and so
well, we do, but it's just,
Just not paid.
yeah, it's and and he was told by Alex reached out to a former Hawkeye player as well, and who's a deeply religious young man, and explained to him, hey, look, it's up to you, but nobody's standing in your way for expressing your religious views or seeking that out. Kirk's very supportive of Fellowship of Christian Athletes.
they're very active on campus.
It gets down to this
athletic
kid's
teams.
parents, I think.
There are a lot
But
of,
in Auburn basically saying, look, we got a chaplain. We've got a religious figure in the football office
well, it's not Gene Chiswick.
that
that's
you
for
can
sure.
go to at any time. So
You know, there's some Southeast Conference coaches whining now about the SEC established some new rules. I don't claim to know what they are this year about over-signing. Supposedly, the SEC teams can't sign as many people as they
now
used
if you look
to.
at their list,
The coaches
Yeah,
are
I'm
whining.
sure they're not
about
paying
that.
attention.
or like Nick Saban, who gets a commit from a kid in August, and then pulls the offer in February.
Yeah, a couple days before signing.
Yeah.
tells the kid that he can't.
Don't have room for you now.
And that's after all the other schools have finished their recruiting
Yeah.
virtually
Yeah.
and have no room for.
So the
a like
kid
that.
is going to take a year off and still go to Alabama. I would have told Nick Saban
What?
something else where he could go, but
How could
you know.
you trust him after that deal?
I mean that's just hey when you're the top program in college football, and I don't think anybody would really argue that
Yeah.
they're in that conversation. Obviously, they probably are the best program. I mean, you can get by doing that stuff.
That stinks.
Well, what's Saban won? 3 national titles in what, 9 years? One at LSU,
Yeah, I mean,
and 2 at
you
Alabama.
know, it's hard to argue with his level of success.
Yeah, it is.
And he can get by doing that. So,
Yeah.
How
Well,
many-
what are we going to do about next year, though? This D line? Do we have any redshirt youngsters?
you know, there's
or
a
something?
kid, Riley McMinn, that I think everybody's pretty excited about. Marcus Spears, I think, is a kid who's got some potential off the edge. The thing with McMinn is I think he's 245 now, so he's still,
But tall.
he's tall. He's 6'7". I know they're pretty excited about his potential. So
Okay.
What position do you see him?
D end. I think he and Spears, they've just got to, something. I said last year that the defensive line had to have a kid like Carl Davis really emerge because they need that guy in the middle that can just plug it up and do things. And
Well, who was the kid, Tom, from West High that did that for us as like a fifth-year senior? Do you-
Lupke?
Yeah.
Oh,
Remember when all of a sudden he just was in there
Yeah.
and had a heck of a season for us?
Hey, it's
Kind of a pleasant surprise.
It's always nice to play next to Jonathan Babineau. I think he
Well,
makes your life as the other D tackle
be true.
a lot easier. And then on your other side is probably Matt Roth. I
Yeah,
think,
yeah.
or Derek Robinson. I mean, he had 3 NFL guys playing with him, so
That's true.
that helps. But Tyler had a great.
Yeah.
I mean, and he just would shoot gaps. I mean, that's what he would do: is shoot gaps and make plays.
now Riley McMinn, is he the kid from Rochester, Illinois?
Yes,
Okay, so he'll be a sophomore.
he'll be a
eligibility?
redshirt freshman.
Redshirt freshman. He's got some great upside, I'm told, by one of the coaches in his conference.
Yeah, I think he has a lot of upside.
Yeah.
Was there a tailback from Rochester, too, that went to a JC in Iowa?
No, that's the kid
6'4".
from Edwardsville,
Okay.
Rodney
Coe.
Coe, the Rodney
Coe,
Coe
that's the guy.
saga.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Continue.
Where's he at? What's happening there?
He is a.
It's on his Twitter.
Yeah.
Pat's been following this. You must have a Twitter. You have a Twitter?
No, I don't.
Well, you
But
followed it.
He recently tweeted that he wasn't going to Iowa, that they didn't want him to play running back. He was going to go someplace else. And then either last night or today, he tweeted, "Iowa fans and reporters and anybody else that cares, forget everything I said yesterday."
Yeah.
Really?
Well, he had a,
Okay.
That's what the world of recruiting has come to.
he apparently had had a conversation with the Iowa coaches of some nature, and they told him at 6'3", 270, you're not going to come in here and play running back. Imagine that. And
Yeah.
I don't know that he would have lasted very long at running back anyway if he would have qualified last year. I think he was going to punch his ticket to defensive end, and I think he would be really good at a defensive end too. But they kind of had that conversation with him and said, look, probably defensive end, and he didn't like that. He wants to play running back and get his shot at running back, and so he said he was going to look around. Then the tweets got out there, and then Iowa fans started
Tweeting back.
calling him names, and he started calling people names back,
Oh,
and
boy.
and used one of my favorite terms, prima donna.
Oh, no.
He used prima donna.
Yeah.
And then this morning, the website Deadspin, which is kind of a satirical kind of site, picked up on the Rodney Coe saga and
Oh,
put it
they
on their
did.
front page. So, including the
great.
reference to a prima donna.
Oh, great.
Rodney said
Not spelled the
he
way
he
you
can't go
traditionally.
here or any place until he gets his AA degree,
Yeah.
since he was a
Yeah.
non-qualifier coming out of high
So
school.
he's still got one more
He's got
year
another year in
Oh,
junior
okay.
college,
after this
but-
year.
And a degree to get
Well,
before he can enroll.
Guys,
But-
how big was Ron Dane at Wisconsin?
About 270,
Yeah,
Seriously, he ran that? He was that heavy?
260.
Wow.
which I
It's
just
it's not impossible.
All he did was win the
Depending
Heisman.
on how it's
Nick,
spread.
how heavy was Nick Bell?
he wasn't that big.
I bet he was pretty close to
250?
250.
Yeah,
Yeah.
250, yeah.
I'm gonna say 250, maybe.
But he was on a 6'4" frame too,
Yeah.
wasn't he?
But he was a lot more, he was more muscled than Rodney Coe
Yeah.
is right now. I mean, I don't think it's impossible, and Kirk's, our program's history is, if you want to give it a try, we'll give you a chance.
Doesn't the curiosity in you though want to see what a 6'3", 270-pound running back could do for
I
Iowa?
want to know what his 40-yard time is before I answer that.
What was
He's
Ron
pretty fast.
Dane's?
He was like 4'5".
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Well,
Listen, I was in Madison when Iowa played Wisconsin, last home game of the year, and Ron Dane broke all of the Russian
The record,
records.
yeah, when he was running over guys, defensive tackles that he was bigger than.
Yeah.
how tall is Jacobs with the Giants?
Probably about 6'3".
Uh,
He's probably
He certainly
270,
weighs 260.
260. Yeah.
Wow.
I'd-
How would you like to tackle that?
But Ron Dane would be here at Iowa.
I mean, even looking at, if you go on and Google Rodney Coe and you can pull up videos of him
Oh,
last
I've
year at
watched his
Iowa
videos.
Western, and he's like a giant out there. I mean, he really is.
And a bruiser.
He's a big kid.
He knocks defenders backwards. And I love that. I really envied that in Ron Dane.
Murph, you were going to say that Ron Dane could have been at Iowa? Is that-
If Bernie Wyatt
Bernie
were still
Wyatt
around,
stayed.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a recruiting to Wisconsin, yeah.
Yeah. He was something to behold. Didn't have much of a pro career, but he'll never be forgotten in college football history. So, and unfortunately, we had to witness that.
He's in the restaurant business in Madison, isn't he?
Is that right?
A place
Not
called
sure.
the Great Dane or something?
Or is he just eating his way from one
I
restaurant
saw,
to another?
I saw a thing on the Big Ten Network with him, and he looked like he'd packed on a couple.
Yeah.
He might be eating some of his food at the restaurant.
So, tell us about the class of 2013. Who stands out? I understand Iowa has already made roughly 30 offers.
35, 40 offers
Wowzer.
already that we know of,
Wowzer.
that we've kind of verified with coaches.
Who
So,
stands out to you?
boy, it's so early.
Yeah.
I know it's tough to. There's some in-state kids this year. though,
That's,
that I think Jake Campos, offensive lineman
From
Valley, that Des Moines Valley, that he's picking up a lot of offers. I think most of the Big Ten's going to end up offering him. Probably most of the Big 12 will end up offering him.
Whoa.
Might get national, even bigger than that, but a big kid, moves really well. Scott Reardon kid, another Valley kid who's a big kid. Good bloodlines there.
what are the bloodlines?
His dad, is it his dad, I think, from Mason City, and something played for Barry Alvarez up there, I believe. And
Reardon?
Reardon. I think played at Notre Dame, maybe. Zach Borens, kid from Cedar Rapids, has turned a few heads.
What high
Six-
school?
I
Borens.
can't remember. I think Prairie, but I'm not positive. But he's 6'7", 300-pound kid who went to a camp, and everybody liked what he did last week. So
Any wide receivers from Iowa?
it's a thin year, it looks like, for skill position. Guys, there's a tight end, John Wisniewski from Dowling, that Iowa's offered already.
Is it unusual, Tom, for Iowa, for the 2013 class to have already offered 30
It's
scholarships?
kind of unusual for them to be, but I think that's where the trend is nationally. That's where the trend has been for Kirk now. You got to
Okay.
keep up with people because You got to get those early offers out there. You know, it's interesting with some of these in-state kids is not really grown-up Iowa fans. A lot of these Des Moines kids
That's
just don't grow up Iowa. Iowa fans. They're more Iowa State or more just not really into the Hawkeyes. And
That hurts me to my soul.
you wonder. At least people on our message boards are speculating, and some of them who know some of these kids and their parents, that some of the negative media coverage that the Des Moines market gets about Iowa athletics has kind of turned off some of these folks.
Thank you, Des Moines Register.
I would
So-
agree. Remember the old Big Peach
Yeah.
section guys?
I don't know
history.
how much
It was all Hawkeyes back in the day.
Well,
That went away several years ago. But
yeah, there's no denying that there's a real negative bent to the Hawkeye coverage in the Des Moines Register. No denying it. And I think the TV
Although
stations.
Cyclone
in Des
fans
Moines-
will tell you that the Register is very negative towards the Cyclones as well.
is that right?
Yes.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think they live in a
Well, there's a
vacuum,
reason for
too.
that.
Yeah.
There's another kid, Dirk, that you'll find interesting. A kid named Logan Tully Tillman, big offensive lineman, getting a lot of offers. He's out of the Peoria area, and he actually plays AAU basketball for Kenyon Murray, Legacy Basketball.
Oh.
So
How did he end up with Kenyon living in
I
Peoria?
think Kenyon's got some connections to him.
I'll be
somehow,
darned.
or his family does. And
Because Kenyon lives in Cedar
yeah,
Rapids.
yeah. So he's playing AAU ball with Kenyon's team. He's a big kid and getting a lot of interest. He was here for a junior day. They had, probably 50, 60 kids at a junior day.
Do you know which high school in Peoria?
I want to say Richwoods. But I'm not positive on that.
Well, you touched on basketball there a little bit. How about these guys, Woodbury and Giselle, and the kids that are coming in next fall's recruiting class that's supposed to be saviors for the program?
How are their teams doing?
Adam Woodbury's team's doing okay. I think they're still in the top 10 in the state in 4A. They've got a real good shot. They'll make it to state. I don't know how far they'll make it. They would have a tough time if they were going up against West High or Linn-Mar or somebody like that. Or,
Yeah.
even Dubuque Senior, I think, would give them a tough game. But Cedar Falls would be a tough game for them, I think.
How about Giselle?
His team, I got to see him play down in Arizona in December. They were playing at the
Oh, yeah, before the
before the Inside Bowl, and I've seen both those guys play so much in the summer. So he's really good. I mean, he's gonna come in day one. Here are the keys to the car. Go run. He did
You
play
might want to
against
rephrase that.
Yeah, don't say keys to the car.
No cars, no keys.
cars. Yeah.
That's an Illinois thing.
Yeah, Deion Thomas. By the way, Bruce Weber is going to get fired.
Your speech, that's,
From who?
That's the word on the street is Bruce Weber will.
Oh, Weber, I'm sorry.
Bruce Weber.
I was thinking the
What
other
about
Bruce,
Weber?
Bruce Pearl. Oh, he's going to get fired.
Yeah.
New athletic director.
He didn't win a few more games.
He can.
Tom, there was a report that
he's
Fran
done.
was in Des Moines a couple of weeks ago watching a Valley, I think,
Peter
Fort
Jock.
Dodge game.
Peter Jock.
Is that
Yeah.
who it is?
Peter Jock.
So he's transferred once.
Yeah,
started
he
out
was at Roosevelt, and then he's had a series. I don't know that he has
Joe.
a committable offer anywhere right now.
How
6.
tall is he?
He's about 6'5", 6'6". He's had a series of knee problems that have really limited him. He's still not 100%. At one point, when he was a freshman, he was rated by one scouting service as the best freshman in the country.
Wow.
Leveled off.
But
Too-
it's
too tall,
really,
too
he
fast.
just has not been healthy enough to be out there and for people to see him. He was out all summer last year, had knee surgery. And
Is he a junior?
he's a junior.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting though. Fran has been out looking around a little bit at some JUCO kids to potentially bring in. I
He's still
can't.
got a scholarship for
He's
this
got-
year, which he could use.
Right.
And we heard Monday at lunch
yes.
that
Well,
they.
we've heard that before, that Fran has never said either he will or he won't save it or.
He kind of
use
leaned.
it.
At one point, he was kind of leaning. It'd have to be somebody really, really, really good. Now I think he's really, really, not just really, really, really. I mean, he's kind of. I think he's looking for the right guy. I can't see him bringing in 6 freshmen. I could see him bringing in a JUCO kid to kind of balance his classes out a little bit.
Yeah.
What's happened to this play center for us,
In football or basketball?
basketball?
Wasabi.
Wasabi, what's happened to him?
Sophomore slump. Seen that happen before in Iowa basketball history.
Who are some of the notable sophomore slumpers?
Boy, didn't Kevin Boyle have a bad slump?
Yeah, I think it was his sophomore year, but he would.
Michael Payne.
Here's issues with Wasabi include effort
Yeah.
and
Maturity.
how hard he wants to play. But more realistic issue is he's 6'7", and we're asking him to play the post in Big Ten against guys who are 6'9", 6'10", even 7 feet. And he was fairly successful last year before anybody had seen him. I think surprised a lot of people. But he's getting pushed around and pushed out, and when his shot gets blocked back in his face, I think he tends to sulk a little bit.
Is he a legitimate 6'7"?
I think so.
Yeah.
He's pretty close, yeah.
I think his
And he can jump.
Yeah.
his other thing
He
is
jumps well.
he, he gets his buckets in transition and off rebounds and things of that nature. And he does. It seems like if he gets, and I'll borrow a Fran term here, sideways early in a game, he just kind of checks out.
Yep.
Or gets early fouls, boom, boom.
Yeah, and he
he's-
just kind of checks out.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, Aaron White's come in and taken his minutes.
Yes.
Yes,
Rightfully so.
that's
And Aaron
right.
White's really good.
He's earned it.
He's the best freshman in the Big Ten.
Well, we hope
I
he
think the
doesn't have
Zeller
a
kid
sophomore
would argue
slump.
with you.
We'll see who comes out.
I think the Zeller kid will argue with you.
Yeah.
I think if Cody came out this year, he would be a top 10 pick.
Really?
Cody Zeller.
And he's a true freshman. Amazing.
He's good.
The Hawkeye men have a chance to redeem themselves tomorrow night, Thursday night, 7 p.m. on the road. That game is going to be on ESPNU at Penn State, a team that they whooped pretty good here just a week or two ago.
And
2
Indiana comes to town on Sunday.
Yeah.
Hopefully they can
Oh,
make some.
they're going to beat Indiana. I have full confidence in that. I don't think they're going to forget what happened.
I
over
hope
there.
they don't give up 103
Let's hope
again.
they have a better defense.
I think
Yeah,
they will.
my goodness.
I
A
think they
plan in
will.
mind to keep Zeller
Yeah.
off the
Yeah.
rim.
The Hawkeye women have won 5 games in a row, 3 in a row since losing Jamie Printy. I actually suspect that the Hawkeye women might be playing a little better without
Well,
Jamie.
this is almost heretical to say it because Jamie is so good, such a talent. But I think our offensive ball movement has been better.
Yep.
Since she's
Different
been down.
dynamics.
They're thinking differently,
Mm-hmm.
realize that she's not there to give the ball to and let her shoot it or drive. And so they're moving it around the perimeter, I think, better. I think there's no question the ball movement is better now.
Our guard from Wisconsin's playing.
Sam Logic.
Well, she's gotten used to the Big Ten and is doing what a McDonald's All-American is capable of doing. She's had a couple terrific games. And she started to fill the role
Right.
that Cash used to fill. I mean, early in the year, I was saying, we're just not used to playing without Cash because when that ball bounced, Cash was there to get it and nobody is. Well, Sam is now getting it. She is our leading offensive rebounder.
Really?
Wow.
And she's playing point guard.
Yeah.
But she's
Good.
got more offensive
Joe?
rebounds than anybody else on the team. Now, Morgan Johnson is our leading rebounder because she's getting more defensive rebounds. But in terms of offensive rebounds, Samantha Logic leads the team.
Well, I hate to do this, but we've got to wrap this show
Hey,
up,
we got
believe it or
to
not.
mention the wrestlers this weekend. too.
Wrestlers are at the, in the
Stillwater.
national duels in Stillwater, 2 o'clock on KXIC against Minnesota. Then, win or lose, they'll be wrestling at 6 o'clock against whoever wins or loses in the other bracket, Illinois versus Okie State. Lots of high school going on. State wrestling finals are Saturday night. Lots of boys and girls districts are going on. but I've got to stop now, and it kills me. We want to thank Tom Kakert from Rivals.com, HawkeyeReport.com, the widely recognized and respected leader in college recruiting and all things Hawkeye.
Killing me, Dirk.
On behalf of Bob and Pat and Earl, thanks for watching, and remember this: either you're a Hawk or you're not. Go Hawks!